Hi everyone, welcome to our final existing features track. I'm Jordy and I'm joined by our very own Jennifer and Chris, who are going to show you how to scale your product stories by leveraging our AI capabilities. Before I hand it over to Jennifer, just a final reminder, use that Q&A button on the right for any questions and please do ask us any questions. And be sure also to grab those downloadable assets before you leave. Jennifer and Chris, I'll leave it to you.
All right. Thank you, Yordi. And hello, everybody. Thank you
Hello.
for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Nash. I am part of the product marketing team here at Akeneo, and I'm excited to be joined by my teammate, Chris. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Chris Marquis. I'm an engineering manager. I work on our activation product, but before that, I was actually an Akeneo customer for many years, and I was an Akeneo consultant for several years on the PIM as well. So I've been all around the Akeneo ecosystem and excited to talk to you today about AI.
Yes, and we are in very good hands, as you'll see as we start walking through these capabilities. And our goal for the next 40 minutes is to provide you with a deeper understanding of how you can leverage AI capabilities across Akeneo Product Cloud and walk away with inspiration for how you can start using some of the examples and features that we will show you today to support your own teams and product data. And so, as we were preparing for today's session, I went back and I was thinking about our first AI capability for the PIM. And we released it 2 years ago at Unlock 2024. And this was the AI enhanced enrichment and translation. And for the past 2 years, we have steadily expanded our AI capabilities across the product cloud. And so I actually counted up, and today, with spring release, we have nearly 30 AI features that span the entire product cloud to help you speed and strategically improve data modeling, reduce manual enrichment tasks, format and edit assets, speed syndication channel onboarding, and ingest and analyze market signals and performance to optimize product data. And that's just a few of the high points. We have been steadily releasing so many capabilities across the past year in particular that we recognize it can be hard to keep up. So today, we are going to focus on some examples of how you can use AI to support enrichment in Akeneo PIM, asset preparation in Akeneo DAM, and faster channel go-lives in Akeneo Activation, with the outcome being that you will be able to reduce manual data population, verified data is correct, and generally gain more time back to focus on other tasks while being confident that your product stories are complete, correct, and ready to drive conversions. But before Chris jumps into the how, I want to talk a little bit about the where. So some of you may be familiar with this classic Ask AI button that lives next to attributes in the product edit form. We are actually in the process of upgrading this experience, and some of you may already have access to it in beta. If you don't, it is coming your way shortly. And with this upgrade, the Ask AI button becomes more prominent in the PIM UI. It's purple now, and it's very powerful. Think of it as a front door to access AI features. There's no hunting or jumping from screen to screen. It's just right there to help you focus on what you need to do to prepare your product data. And that button, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's really what happens after you click it, how it helps create and improve content. That's where the real magic happens. So, Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you, and let's start showing everyone what happens when we actually push this button and put AI to work improving product stories.
Am I on stage? There I am. Hello. Perfect. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Let me jump into the environment here, and I'm going to start from just the activity dashboard, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with. And we're going to navigate over to our product section over on the left side here. And you may notice right away, we also have our new improved product grid, which I highly recommend people play with. It's a really nice improvement there. And you can see that I filtered down to one set of products within this environment, which is sheet sets, which I realized after we selected it is really difficult to say. But we're going to look at these different sheet sets and look at how we can use AI to enrich some of these product records. So if I navigate into this top record here, you can see that there is some data filled out for this product within this environment. I have a description, I have a name, I have a lot of empty information. And so this is a great opportunity for me to leverage that Ask AI button that Jennifer mentioned to be able to start filling out some of that information. And I think the goal is really going to be to show you how you can use it practically now, because AI is becoming more and more prominent throughout the tooling across the product cloud. So we'll show some strategic locations. But if I click this Ask AI button, you'll see that I have 3 different ways that I can leverage AI within this product record. I can do smart fill, generative AI, I can do translation, or I can generate from our PX Insights, which is where we incorporate our voice of customer and performance signals. We're not going to get into PX Insights today. We're going to be mostly focused on how to use generative AI and the different ways of using it. So if we look across here, and if you go back to the early release of we had of our Ask AI buttons, we would only be able to use them for text or text area attributes. That has since changed, where now you can actually use it to do normalization and data extraction. So if we look at something like the color attribute, that in this environment is a reference entity, we can actually go to fill that attribute as well. So if I target that color attribute, and then we'll target a traditional use case too of, I think there's a variant description in here. Another great quality of life thing is we now have a search bar built into our product edit form. So you can see I'm missing this variation description as well. So I'll also populate that. And you can see I'm not clicking on one Ask AI button for every attribute. I can actually generate multiple attributes all at the same time. And when I hit this fill the attributes, you can see I haven't selected any specific prompt or configuration. So what it's doing is it's just using the context that it has on the product, and it's making its best approximation of how the data should be filled out, but then it's still giving you the control of whether you agree with what it said. So it may have looked at the image to infer that it's pink, or it may have pulled it from the text if it mentions pink in it, which it does. And then it's also created a variation description here that is passable for what I'm going to use it for. So this is kind of the classic use case for populating attributes, but now we can also write to simple selects, multi-selects, reference entity attributes. So this is kind of the simplest, fastest. If you want to get started right away, you can start seeing how it performs. But if we take something that has a little bit more specific expectations around how I want it formatted, like this product details, if I target this product details attribute and I just let it run, it's going to give me a description. It's probably going to look similar to the description it generated for the variant, because right now it's just free filling the text. But in this case, I really want to have more control over how product details are formatted. I want it to be a paragraph of romance copy followed by a bulleted list that's in the order of what customers might feel the impact of. And it's not going to know how to do that just right away. That's where these AI configurations come into play that I can apply to any attribute I'm generating. And if you want to navigate to the AI configurations, you can do it down here at the bottom through the shortcut, and I can try to zoom for you. So we have AI configuration down here, and then you could also navigate through the settings. So if you move over the settings tab, you can also go that way. Just for speed's sake, we're going to hit this AI configurations, and it's going to open up a new tab where I can see all of the AI prompts and configurations that I've made in the past. So if I navigate to a prompt that I made for product details content generation, this is where I can go through and tailor exactly what the AI is going to do to generate the value that I'm looking for. So in this case, it's not configured for all attributes. It's only configured to be used for that product details text area. I'm pulling in a lot of product context that's deliberate, that I think is going to develop the best possible product details. I could pull in user reviews or voice of customer data, but in this case, I'm not. I am going to use my assets, so the AI can look at the assets and infer information from what it's seeing. And I'm going to create a custom prompt on how I want it to operate. And now I'll zoom a little bit for you here so it's a little easier to read, hopefully. But I've asked it to just write a paragraph of text followed by several product bullet related features in basic HTML. Order from most important, this should be, to a customer to least important. And now this is like a very fast and dirty prompt, like probably not a very well written or prompt, like engineered prompt. And we've introduced this prompt optimizer and rewriter that's going to help you qualify how well you did writing the prompt. And it's also going to improve that prompt for you to iterate on from there. So when I hit this evaluate prompt button, it's going to look at my custom prompt and what I've written, and it's basically going to gamify and tell me how well I've done. So it's saying, even though it's kind of a short prompt, I got a 71 out of 100, which is pretty good, but my tone isn't great, or my instructions around tone, role, and relevance is lacking. And now I can actually ask it to rewrite that prompt, and it's going to give me suggestions of how that could be formatted more appropriately. So you can see it's giving it a personality. It's saying, please act as a professional copywriter, and it's adding some additional details and stipulations on how it should format that text. I'm going to trust it in this case. And then I could always go in and fine tune it and adjust it and do more deliberate specific tweaks. But this gives me a good starting template. And you can see now it's scoring much better. I'm over 90 for everything except for 85, and it wants me to maybe improve my formatting. So now that I've arrived at this better prompt, I can actually start to preview what this is going to do for different products within my environment. So if I take any given SKU, first, I'm going to pick a channel. So I'm going to target my e-commerce copy for United States English. And then we're actually going to look at that same sheet set that I was using in the other tab. And now I can preview what this is going to generate instead of what it was generating without any instruction, to make sure that my prompt is appropriate. So I can continue to tweak this and make sure that it fits exactly what I would want, test some different products. But you can see now it's giving something that's more in my tone of voice, that has all of those details that I've specified, and it's adding details down here that will help a customer make an informed buying decision. So now if I save this prompt and I navigate back to my product record, I can select that product details content generation. And now when I hit to fill the attributes, it's going to regenerate the text. With that improved product details, I can commit that, and now I have something that is scalable across my product catalog that I can use to draft that copy for me. And with that, I'll give it back to Jennifer.
All right. Thank you, Chris. So, we've seen some ways here that we can accelerate and improve our content creation, leverage AI to help us put our best foot forward. And we focused on text here, but you can also extract information from product assets to make enrichment easier, more consistent, and faster. And you can do this at a product level, or scale and automate these steps for more products with the rules engine. So now let's take a look at how we could do that. And I'll hand it back over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. So we're going to stay within the same product record. And I know I spoke a little bit about how now we can use generative AI with simple selects, multi-selects, and reference entities. And that's great for that data normalization. So if you have some more specific data that's trapped inside a description or inside like a paragraph of text somewhere, you can pull out those details like the color or sizing or something like that into a simple select. You can also use it for measurement and specification related information. And in this case, I'm not extracting the dimensions with height and depth from text copy or anything like that, but I'm actually going to look at a PDF asset that's attached to this product. So you can see I have a list of specifications and a data sheet associated with this sheet set. And within it, there's some information about the sizing. So it talks about the length, width, and depth of the sheet set. I'm actually going to use that same smart fill to target those three attributes. So if I enter width, if I can type it properly, height, and depth. In this case, I have configured AI configuration called just PDF dimension extraction. And all this AI configuration is doing is saying, don't look at any of the attributes on the record. I haven't committed any attributes to this AI configuration. I've only checked, please look at the assets, and more specifically, look at the PDF assets to look for any of this information that might exist. So this is a very targeted AI configuration that's going to look at that PDF attached to the record, and it's going to attempt to fill out the width, height, and depth in my default measurement type, which is centimeters. So if I run this, it's going to take a look at that PDF, and as long as the data is structured enough that the data is close to one another, it's going to be able to infer that information and then write it. And in this case, the PDF actually has the information in inches, but because I've defaulted width, height, and depth to be in centimeters by default, it's also converted it to the equivalent number of centimeters to be able to write to this record. So this is a great way that if you work in data sheets or coming from the ERP, or as things are manufactured, there's a manual or a data sheet or a spec sheet that's being provided that's attached to the product. You could start to pull out some of that enriched content without having to have a user look through spreadsheets to do that. And that's great for an individual usage. That would make it so somebody could go in and for each record, they could click to extract those insights. But as Jennifer mentioned, you want to be able to do it at scale. And that's where our rules engine comes in. So if you go to the settings tab over here on the left, the little cog that we have towards the bottom of the menu bar. And if we go into rules, and actually my search was saved, but I would normally have to, look for the correct rule. I've predefined this rule, and I'm going to step you through how it's structured. So all I've done is define some product selection criteria where the family is in my sheet sets family, and the PDFs are not empty. So it's only going to target products where a PDF is filled out, which in this case is 11 products. Then I've asked it to generate value with AI as an action that's available in our actions menu. And I've chained 3 actions together. So I've said if it has a PDF, I want you to run that generate attribute value for all 3 of these attributes, width, depth, and height, and use my AI configuration of PDF dimension extraction. This is going to make it so that I can run this at scale. So as new records are added that have a PDF, this will automatically kick off and write those dimensions. And that execution could be based on a schedule where it checks once a day for anything that's changed. It can be triggered. So as soon as the record is saved, so if somebody saves a SKU with a new PDF, it will kick off. Or it can be a part of a workflow. If you're not completely trusting of AI yet, you can make it so that within the workflow, somebody attaches a PDF on step 1. This rule kicks off in between step 1 and step 2, and somebody checks all of the specifications that were derived from the PDF in that second step. And then they say, approve, everything looks great. And then as you build trust and your prompt gets better and better, hopefully there's less and less manual intervention as time passes. And so with this, you could save. And now when you go into your rules, you would just enable this rule and turn it on. And I could run it manually with this play button looking here. Or I could wait for the scheduled run or the triggered run. And then that would show up within my activity tab and within my process tracker. So I would wait for that job to run, and then all of my records would be updated with that new information. And so with that, I'll hand it back to Jennifer.
All right. Thank you, Chris. So as you can see here, it's giving you more control. It's easy to use. It's also automating work to make your life easier while still giving you that control to have humans validate what's happening so that you can be comfortable and confident in your content. And before we move into the next section, I did just want to remind everybody that we have some experts behind the scenes on hand to answer questions. So if you have any questions about anything you've seen today, feel free to enter those in the chat. But now let's keep moving on. So we talked about being confident in your results, having control over what the AI is generating. And next, let's talk about how, AI, it's not just for generating copy and translating and populating attributes. You can also use AI for quality control to help you monitor your data for inconsistencies, check for irregular patterns. It can be very easy to miss inconsistencies. If we look at that sheet set example that Chris was working on to populate the dimensions in the appropriate attributes, what if you also had if you were talking about the dimensions of the sheets in your description, and it could be easy to have a different measurement in the description versus what you've got in your attributes and miss that if you are having a human review the content. This is an example of where AI can act as your backup, your extra set of eyes to detect issues that can often get lost when managing hundreds to thousands of products. So Chris, let's take a look at how we can detect inconsistencies with AI.
Perfect. Let's do it. Yeah, and I think this is a really interesting point, and it opens up kind of the topic too that our AI is really LLM embedded within the context of your product records. So the way that you use it is really based on how creative you can be. So if you don't fully trust AI to generate your product copy, or that's not the way that you want to use it today, it doesn't mean that you can't still get value out of the way that we've implemented it. So in this case, I've actually introduced a field in my data model called AI feedback. And this is just a text area field that my internal business users might use to be able to generate information from our LLM into the product record that I'm working with. So if I navigate back into the Ask AI button and I go to Smart Fill, if I target this AI feedback attribute, I have a couple AI configurations that I've set up, one of which is an AI copywriter, and one is an AI feedback tone of voice check. So these are a couple prompts that I've set up that are looking at all of my marketing copy and text attributes and specification attributes. And I'm saying, look for inconsistencies that would be damaging to the customer experience. So imagine, it says pack quantity of 4 versus pack quantity of 3, or the dimension example that Jennifer gave. So this is serving as essentially my assistant, and it's looking across all of the data that exists, and it's looking for things that are incorrect. So it has found 4 discrepancies across this particular product record, and it's saying that the product title and the short description are stating different thread counts, which you can imagine could play into the comfort of the sheets or the price of the sheet set, or just a customer could be unhappy with that experience. You can see that within the name, it actually says 300 thread count, but within the text here, it says 500 thread count. And this was an error I introduced to showcase, but it did catch some other things too. Like within the care instruction attribute, somebody, while setting up this data set, forgot to put the R in instructions in the code of that attribute. And the code of the attribute actually isn't even something you can see within the UI right now. So it found out that the code was mislabeled for this particular field. So it's finding things that would be really, really difficult for an editor to catch in their day-to-day. And as we mentioned with the rule engine, this could be run at scale. So you can imagine you can either get written feedback like this, or you could even score it. So you could say, hey, how consistent is my data, and give it a score from 1 to 10. And it can be used as another version of quality control. So that is on the copywriter side, and this could give me some instructions on what products to focus on, or I could target my best sellers and figure out how their copy can be improved. But I also might be concerned about, like, is this product fitting my tone of voice? So you can imagine this is home goods, bedding sets. The whole idea is that it wants to be comfortable and luxurious and kind of relaxing. So I've given instructions to this AI feedback tone of voice check that says, hey, this is my brand image. I want to make sure that customers feel like they're going to get the most luxurious experience that they could possibly expect. Please review all of the content that exists on this record and look for ways that I can do a better job presenting my content. So you can see here it says that like experience the ultimate warmth and comfort, crafted from 700, but here it has luxuriously soft and warm embrace, perfect for chilly nights. So it's getting a little poetic with how it presents the product to the customer. And this is going to give me suggestions of, this is how you wrote it, and this might be more in line with your brand voice, which you can imagine that if you have, a large team of people contributing product copy, this is going to do a good job to make sure that no one is speaking from a totally different voice from another marketer. So these are just a couple examples of some more unorthodox patterns that you could use to check the quality of your data and get feedback from the AI that's embedded. But you can get as creative as you would like on seeing what you can get for insights on your data. And with that, I'll pass it back to Jennifer.
All right. Thank you, Chris. So here, it's all about saving time, saving pain, but also saving confusion and frustration for your customer by making sure your data is clear and consistent to help reduce returns and reduce customer doubt, reduce lost sales to competitors. So now let's switch gears and move on from PIM to DAM. We've showed you how you can extract content from assets to improve enrichment, but you can also use AI to automatically tag assets with keywords and to prepare assets for channels, such as creating assets in specific sizes and formats to meet the needs of your specific sales channels. So, Chris, I'll turn it back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And so now, starting back from our activity section, I'm going to navigate now into Akenio's DAM in this asset section. And if we take a look at, we'll look at these curtains, for example. They're just the first asset that's here. And you can see that I have a number of different attributes belonging to this asset, but the main asset itself is set on a gray background. And if I'm using this image for different channels that have strong opinions on how my image needs to be formatted, it needs to be on a white background or on a transparent background, I actually have the ability with AI to smart edit and transform inline. So this is going to change my main media that's attached to this asset. Then you can see we have some non-high precision changes and then high precision AI changes. The difference between those two is that when you're looking at like the rings of this sheet or this curtain set, there's some background that's embedded in there, and a regular edit might not be able to get that level of detail. I know another example we've given is like a bike with the bike spokes in the tire, and it's impossible to crop the background. That high precision will reach in there and be able to change that. So if I run this high precision white background removal, you'll see that it will crop around the outside, but it will also go through and really cleanly remove the background within the rings at the top. And if I don't want to change my main media, I actually want to version this image to be transformed with the AI into a new version of the same asset. You can see there are some transformations already happening on this record for e-commerce, for marketplaces, or this thumbnail. This is all controlled from within the asset family settings. So if we navigate back to our asset families and I go into edit family up here in the top right, within this transformation section here, anybody who's used our transformations before would be familiar with this JSON configuration that was not super user-friendly or intuitive. Now you can define that via this UI. And this is going to make it so you can define all of those different transformations that need to happen and then store them as discrete pieces of media on that same asset record. So in this case, we have the marketplace background removal that is removing the background and putting it on a white background, but it's not running in a high precision operation. So I could add this to be high precision and then save that, and now it's going to do the adjustment with high precision. But I could also add other transformations and put them as different attributes on that same record. And within here, you have all of those different operation types. So not just the AI operation types that I showed, which included the background removal, aspect ratio change, and auto crop, but we also have all of our classic transformations. So resizing, resolution, optimized JPEG, things like that. And so this will allow you to run that transformation across all of your assets that belong to that asset family. If we navigate back into this record and we start to think about the auto tagging capabilities that we have, you can see that this record actually already has some auto tags applied. So it has 5 different tags applied for curtain, fabric, grommet, rod, and dark gray. This is it just doing its best to infer from what it sees what might be useful for tagging for like keywords and search. If we want to have more control over how those auto tags are applied, we actually go back to that exact same area within the asset family configuration. So if I navigate into my asset families and into edit family, and then I'm going to go into the properties of this set of images, this is where I would turn on my CDN to be able to create share links if I was using Akenio CDN. But now you can also see this is where you can configure your auto tagging. So this is one where I can turn it off and on, but it's also where I can set an AI configuration, just like my generative AI in the product record, But in this case, it's going to be defining how that tagging should operate. So just like within the Gen AI, I have a link that will take me to my AI configuration. So I'll click that. It'll open a new tab. And actually at the top of the AI configurations, you can see where all of my generation rules live. And you can also see where my asset auto tagging rule is. So if I open up this AI configuration, you can say that I want it to tag for commonly searched terms related to interior design, exclude any trademarks, and prioritize any lifestyle terminology or information useful to homeowners. I want it to apply up to 8 labels, only provide up to 3 colors. I don't want it to just be a collection of all the colors that it can find within the image. And more specifically, I want it to use like romance copy style color names. So like verdant, sapphire, golden. I don't want it to use just blue, red, green. And I do not want it to extract brand logos, which it's capable of as well. So this is giving it a more deliberate way that I want those keywords or the alt text to be established. And that way that's on the record for me to use to search for the products or to serve to customers or serve as meta information. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Jennifer.
All right, thank you, Chris. Okay, we've enriched our product data, we've tagged and formatted our assets, and so now we're ready to send product data outside of the product cloud to channels. And the fastest way to do that is with Akeneo Activation. And we also have AI capabilities in Activation. We can provide guidance on what types of data and formats are needed before you even start working on a channel to help you save time, work more effectively. And we also have AI auto mapping to speed the mapping of data to meet each specific channel format. And so let's take a look at this.
Perfect. And again, I'm always starting from home base here. So I'm starting at the activity tab, and then we're going to navigate into Akeneo Activation. So if I go into the connect menu in the left sidebar, I have a connected app, which is my Akeneo Activation. And when I open this app, it's going to take me to what looks like a green version of Akeneo PIM. And this is where all of my data outbound is going. So this is where I can browse all of the different channels that you're able to connect to using Akeneo Activation. And I can see any channels that I'm already connected to. So in this case, this environment is connected to Amazon Vendor, Walmart, but it doesn't seem to be pushing data yet, and then Google Shopping, where it's pushing data. And I'm going to start with looking at our connection already to Amazon Vendor, and then we'll talk about what it looks like if I want to sell on Amazon Vendor and I want to see what the requirements of a net new channel would be. If I drill into this Amazon Vendor store, activation works through defining catalogs of products that you want to send out of the PIM into the given retailer or marketplace that you're targeting. So in this case, I'm targeting Amazon's product family called bedding sets. I have one catalog that's already mapped, so I can show you what it looks like already mapped. But first, we're going to navigate into this new unmapped catalog, so I can show you what it would look like if you were getting started for the first time. So if I hit this go to mapping, it's going to take me closer back to the PIM environment and alongside the data model, but it's also going to serve me with all of Amazon's requirements to sell into this bedding sets product catalog. So you can see like Amazon needs item type keywords, and it reserves certain words that are allowed to be used. I need some key features, and I can even filter here to only show the required attributes, show my required and map. So I have some control over what I'm looking at. But our first important utilization of AI would be to run this generate mapping in bulk across this entire catalog. So when I click this button, it's going to see that Amazon is expecting 206 different data points to be able to map into this product type on Amazon Vendor. This generate with AI button is going to look at my PIM data model and find all the best matching attributes that exist within my data model. And then it's going to find each one of those matches and then serve me back with a confidence score. Because of the size of my data model and the size of the number of targets, this is going to take a little while to run, and that's why I have the other catalog set up to show you. So I'll let that run in the background. And in the meantime, we'll jump back to activation and we'll go into our established catalog so I can show you some of the other AI functionality.
So let's go back to Chris's screen.
Oh,
There we go.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, yeah. So I'm jumping back into the other betting set family here. And this one does already have mappings in place. And you'll actually see that I can run that same AI mapping on an individual row basis. So I can ask it for a suggestion on do I have a batteries required attribute already in my data model? Or for country of publication, do I have a country of origin that I can already leverage? So that's the second way that I can leverage AI for mapping. And it's saying it could not find a suitable source for our batteries required, but maybe I could just go in and say, no, it's a betting set. I'm never going to have batteries. So I'll set a default value. If I go into country of publication and I click my add source button here, you can see AI will also run to give me suggestions within this menu. And it's also giving its explanation on why it thinks it's a good match. So it's saying country of origin is 100% sure it's a good match, and it has manufacturing location, which might be appropriate, but it's 70% sure. It's a little shaky on it. And if I choose this country of origin attribute, I'll show you the next place that we're leveraging AI to make your life a little easier. So we're going to choose country of origin. We're going to choose the label of our country of origin for English. And when I go into this replace values button, we're going to see that Amazon has some very specific ways that it wants these values passed. It's the country code and then followed by the country label. The way that we have it within our PIM data model is we have it more fuzzy. So designed in Australia, made in China, imported by Dentons from Europe. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to run our AI utility here. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at all of the options that I have within my simple select or multi-select. It's going to look at all the acceptable values that Amazon has. And it's going to say, what is the closest possible match that I can find? And just like when it was searching for an attribute to map, it's going to give me a confidence score on how confident it is that that's an appropriate match. So you can see it recognized that it was only designed in Australia, but it was made in China. So it chose China. You know, some of them are a little more straightforward. But the one that I always like is that for this one where it's made in Queensland, it knew that that was Australia, and it's 97% sure. So that's something that a user would be going through to try to figure all these things out. But I've just accelerated that by a lot by letting AI do it. And then I can just look at, I don't know why this says mixed does not include alcohol. Someone put a bad attribute value in there. So this is not something I would map, and I would probably have to have corrected. And then up here, it did not know what imported from Denton's meant in terms of country of manufacturer. So it's not sure about those two, and I won't map them, but I'll confirm all those other selections. And now my country of origin is mapped to the country of publication for Amazon. The final way that we're using AI in this interface is, say my title or my name doesn't include my branding, but when I pass a title to Amazon, I actually want it to be the brand followed by this short name that's in the PIM. I can add multiple sources that are going to write to this Amazon field. So I'll add that brand attribute, and I'll take the brand name out of my reference entity for English. And then say down here, I want to concatenate those two with like a hyphen between them. I might not know how to write that concatenate formula or even a more complex formula than that, like a regex formula or something. And I can just speak to this AI formula generator in plain English and have it make that adjustment for me. So I could say, please prefix the name with the brand and separate with a hyphen. This is going to try to construct a formula, and they can get pretty complex. And it's going to tell me, one, if it can't do it. If it can do it, it's going to do it. And then it's also going to tell me its confidence in the formula it wrote and what it was thinking when it wrote it and how it's working. It's saying here, even if no extra null checks are necessary, it could run an if statement to also check if it's null before it does any type of operation. So it's also giving me recommendations, and I could put this recommendation up here and regenerate. So this is a great way of being able to write complex formulas without having to be familiar with all of the formulas that are available within Akinio activation. So that is everything here. And now if I jump back to the tab of the unmapped catalog, sorry, I'm still going. I know, it's a lot with activation. Eventually I'll be done. This is, I think, the last piece. But I ran the mapping for that entire catalog, and I just want to show what that looks finished. So now if I filter down to only the mapped attributes, you'll see that it was able to find 54 matches within my PIM data model for Amazon, and it's fairly confident on most of them. There's some where it's like putting use cases into the second key product features, putting what customers love into the fourth feature. So it's making some determinations on what good features might look like. But it's fairly confident in a lot of these, and I just save my time mapping all of these different values. And I can see a preview of the data as it would write to in case I have to make any adjustments with the formulas. Last thing I'm going to show, because I know we're coming to time. We have about 5 minutes left, and I know that we do want to have time for questions. Is if I am selling today on Amazon Vendor, and I might be interested in selling on Amazon Seller, but I don't know what that looks like. If I navigate into this requirements tab on the left side of Akeneo activation, I can actually target Amazon Seller and then look at any locale within Amazon Seller that I want to sell into. In this case, we'll just choose US. And then I can choose Amazon's families. Like I'll look for that bedding sets family. So like now I can see what it looks like to sell bedding sets on Amazon Seller versus Amazon Vendor. But I might also look for fitted sheets, and other like bedding related categories. I can either just download the requirements of that channel so that I can get familiar with them without having to go to Amazon, or I can run this AI audit file. And this is going to do a very similar operation to what the auto mapping does. So it's going to look at the whole data model in the PIM. It's going to look at all the requirements that we know from activation, and it's going to give me an audit file in Excel that I can use to be prepared to sell on that channel. So this is great if you don't want to use a connection or you don't have a connection yet, you just want to kick the tires on a channel. It's a good way of being able to see what that looks like without having to make a huge time investment into mapping and setting up that channel. And that's it for me.
All right. Thank you, Chris. As you said, there's a lot to cover in activation, but it's very powerful and some great time savings to be had there with especially the mapping capabilities and the formula generation, because what a lot of work and hassle to have to manually figure out those formulas. Let AI do that for you and save you time. So I hope we have inspired you today, and you've got some new examples that you can take back to your own work and apply to your product experience management process. And our challenge to you today, keep learning. And we've got 3 easy ways that you can do that. Our Help Center includes product documentation for all of the capabilities we reviewed today. You can also take training on demand via Akeneo Academy. We have courses devoted to specific products, specific features. You can even take a course to learn how to create better AI prompts. It's all available to you as a complimentary service for being an Akeneo client. And finally, if you participated in our spring release product keynote, you'll know that we have got Ask Ziggy, our internal AI assistant, coming to a PIM near you very soon. So you'll be able to find answers to questions directly as you're working and get assistance with your product data. So that brings us to the end of the content we have today. We have not had any questions come in, so I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jordi. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer and Chris, for that amazing session. And since this was the final session of our Unlock Digital event, I just want to sincerely thank all of you for sticking with us throughout the day. It's been a pleasure having you in these sessions, and I just wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.